Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. On tonight's Versus, we have Bushmills Original Irish Whiskey coming in at a 40% ABV, at least 3-year age statement, versus Bushmills Red Bush coming in at a 40% ABV, at least 3-year age statement. Shocker, I know. So, Bushmills is one of my favorite Irish whiskeys, especially starting off with something simple. But there are several versions of Bushmills, especially in that budget-friendly range. The question comes down to is, what's the big difference between the original and the Red Bush? So we do know, cask-wise, that this is done up in both the ex-bourbon and ex-sherry, where this supposedly is just ex-bourbon, at least from what I could see in documentation on a few websites. So I really wanted to square these two off against each other because you might see these on the shelf and either think they're identical, because when you read them, you really can't tell much of a difference. So let's go ahead and get into things. All right. And as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of good stuff. I will put the Bushmills reviews links up above and down below when they are live. So if you're wanting more in-depth reviews, that'll be there for you. But yeah, I like Bushmills. Again, I think it's one of the great simple Irish. I will reach for Bushmills before like Tullamore Dew, Jameson, things of that nature. And again, both of these seem to be pretty accessible in my market here in Indiana. The Red Bush tends to be the one that's a little harder to find, whereas the Black Bush tends to be a lot easier to find. And we'll definitely do an A-B comparison to that too. Wow. Color-wise, they are strikingly similar. Maybe the original is a little bit lighter. Yeah, I think it is. Just a little bit lighter. Well, nonetheless, let's go for notes on the original Bushmills. Oh, I love that. Man. I like getting to be able to sit down and really enjoy these, because a lot of times, especially if you're out at a bar or a pub or something, you get a pour of something, you can't just sit down and always enjoy things. Very fruity. Green apple, nice layer of spice in there, bit of oak. It's got that classic Irish to it, that like a biscuit note, and it's so beautiful. For it being so friendly, you wouldn't think that a whiskey that's blended up and young would be this friendly on the nose. A lot of times people think of Irish whiskey as that kind of bitey and alcohol forward, but this is very nice. You definitely get that mixed bowl of fruit, a little bit of caramel in there as well. That's what it is. My brain just caught it. It is a Granny Smith apple that's been cut up and you dip it in caramel. That's what my brain's going to. Oh, that's lovely. All right, let's go for notes on the Red Bush. Okay, there's a noticeable difference. You definitely don't get as much fruity, if at all. A little more herbal, almost like a grassiness to it. Definitely get the caramel, vanilla, and the oak layer is very prominent here. Get that bit of grain from the spirit itself. And maybe more like an orchard fruit. But definitely not apple. You don't get any apple. Oh, that's still so good. It feels like, honestly, if I was to close my eyes, I would think this was like an age statement Bushmills that's got a little bit more time in that cask. It just smells a little more hefty. And definitely prominent oak, vanilla caramels, and that bit of grassiness going on. Man, there's something else in there too. That layer of sweetness in there is playing really nice on things. I like that too. All right, let's go for taste on the original Bushmills. Fruity apple, sweet. A little bit of oak layer in there too. Nice solid spice. It's simple, but I tell you what, sometimes simple is great. Maybe a little bit of youth in there too. It's kind of young in its grain notes. It's not off or bad, but you can't tell this is a younger whiskey, especially if you've been experimenting with age statements or older Irish whiskeys. You're going to notice that right away. The apple layer in here, it's more like the skin of an apple. It's bright and lively, maybe a little bit of ABV on the taste, but definitely you get this beautiful burst of apple and caramel. Again, very similar to dipping apples directly into a homemade caramel and as a snack. A little bit of grassiness on the taste as well here in the finish. That oak layer is nice. It's a really good sip. All right, let's go for taste on the Red Bush. Ooh. That's got a heavy herbalness to it. Cardamom, yeah. Wow. You don't get as much fruit on the taste on this one. It does drink a little more metallic as well. The spice layer is plain weird in the Red Bush. It's not bad, but it's definitely 100% different than the standard Bushmills. And I think my palate is actually looking for that fruitiness to kind of break things up, especially here being with the ex-sherry casks. You don't get that kind of complexity of that sherry cask kind of breaking things up and giving you less spice and more fruit-forward notes. Ooh, there we go. Like homemade orange marmalade, like an orange jam, and without any real sweetener in it, where you're going more natural sweetness, and it's still very much like a more heftier fruit note in there. No sweetness is coming across, I'll say that much. But it's not bad. The oak layer is very present, the spice layer is present, your caramel layers are present. The only real criticism I have on the Red Bush, the youth really does show up on there. And again, maybe that sherry cask is kind of removing some of that. Or again, we know that it's at least 3 years old, but we don't know quite the blend that they use for the Red Bush. One more sip. Honestly, nothing really showed up on that third sip. I was really kind of hoping something would show up. Unfortunately, it just kind of fell a little flat on that. I still think it's good, but I'm going to have to say that if I had to pick one of these two on the shelf, the Bushmills Original is going to win that. So let's talk about market price real quick, because we all know market price is market price, and it's always going to vary. So in my market, I can usually find this for $22 to $24. Sometimes if I'm lucky, sub $20. If I really do some hunting or go like to a Total Wine, I can usually get this for about $18 or $19. Whereas the Red Bush, when I can find it, tends to be $25 to $27. It tends to be a little bit higher up that range. Looking online, this dances as low as $20 as well. So to be honest, it's kind of a moot point here. They're both very similar in pricing. Again, I'm going to have to give it to the original Bushmills. This is gorgeous. This isn't bad. Like, if you're more of a bourbon drinker, you might enjoy this one a little bit more, but I don't think it's going to do a lot for you. I'm very curious where they get their barrels from when it comes to their bourbon they're selecting. The fruit notes really make this another level. That sherry cask breaks up what the ex-bourbon over here is bringing and really just make it a little more complex. Here, it's going a little more simple. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think that honestly, that sherry cask, again, is breaking that up and kind of giving you a little more complexity and depth to it. But yeah, if it was up to me and these were both on the shelf, the original Bushmills is going to win it for me. So yeah, there you have it, folks. Bushmills, the original Irish whiskey versus Bushmills Red Bush. If you have questions about either bottle, let me know down in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer it. And if you have any specific spirits I should put up against each other, also let me know down below. I love doing these reviews and sharing with you the experience at home. And as always, may your last drink of the night be the best one.